What's up, y'all? It's your boy Jacques. Welcome to my channel. If you're new here, I talk about hip hop, I talk about F1, I talk about motorsports, I talk about all types of things. Drop a like and subscribe if you like this type of content. Today, we're going to talk about the Drake lawsuit against UMG on behalf of Not Like Us. Drake is alleging that UMG used Kendrick Lamar's Not Like Us as a way to destroy Drake's career and his public image to make it easier to negotiate with him for a new deal in 2025. This is laid out in what is possibly a really funny, not charging document, but a really funny lawsuit document, because this lawsuit document, which I read through, is effectively being used to explain what Not Like Us and this whole beef was to a judge, to someone that doesn't necessarily know what's going on, but at the same time, needs to be clued in order to rule in Drake's favor. The document goes through these really funny instances where it breaks down legalese, like what the beef was, not necessarily how the beef started. It's also very one-sided. It doesn't remind anybody that The Heart Part 6 came out. It doesn't talk about any of Drake's disses. It doesn't say that Drake also put out some crazy allegations of domestic violence against Kendrick Lamar. All it basically says is that UMG funded Kendrick Lamar's Not Like Us, whitelisted it, making it so YouTubers like me and other people that you follow could make content about it, and also paid TikTokers, influencers to promote the song, paid bots to promote the song, and in that caused the song to be as big as it is, using that as a way to make Drake seem like he is a pedophile, which therefore inflicted violence on him through Drake's bodyguard getting shot outside of his house, through somebody apparently digging underneath the gate in order to get into his apartment, and therefore causing everybody, any Dick and Jane that you go on the street, to think that Drake is a pedophile. All of these things are kind of included in this document, and low-key, I'm not gonna say it's not funny, right? But it's just reading it, it's effectively like if you got your ass whooped in school and you went to the principal to explain the legalese about why this person whooped your ass, but everybody that watched you get your ass whooped is like, yo, the two of you all shot a fair one and you lost this beef, and at the end of the day, and then you were the one that went and cried to the principal. So I don't know, let me know what y'all think, but personally reading it is like pretty insane. The crux of it is here right at the top, almost more at the top, but like maybe like 20-30 pages in. The contract between UMG and Drake is up for new negotiation in 2025. By the spring of 2024, UMG understood that the rise in streaming platforms had enhanced the bargaining power of artists. Established artists whose contracts are coming up for renewal are in an improved position to demand higher take rates due to the improvement in the visibility of cash flows and risk reduction. And as described below and on information and belief, UMG was incentivized to act, and in fact did act, in a manner to reduce the bargaining leverage in advance of upcoming negotiations with Drake over contract renewal. Basically saying what I said at the top, that Drake had done pretty well on his last deal, which was rumored to be about $400 million to $500 million, which is why Drake was dropping all of these albums. Think Her Loss, think Certified Lover Boy, think Honestly Nevermind. Drake dropped like 5 or 6 different projects in 3 years, 4 years, and it was because Drake was on this massive deal from UMG that he had fulfilled. On top of that, streaming only continues to get bigger, and streaming only gives people more data, so basically saying that the prospect of Drake's deal was going to only get bigger, that UMG was gonna have to spend more money to keep Drake, and therefore they found an out in Kendrick Lamar's Not Like Us as a way to take Drake down by promoting a song that had knowable false allegations, and we'll talk about that later in this. So then, like I said, the suit also points something out, that allegedly Kendrick Lamar is supposedly to have signed a short-term deal with Universal Music Group in order to test the waters, and if that year went well, so he signed a deal, I'm guessing like sometime in early 2024, sometimes Q2 2024, and if that deal went well, he would sign another deal with UMG, which would be long-term and carry more albums. Basically, Kendrick Lamar 2 was also signed to UMG, but now Kendrick Lamar was working on his own thing because his first 5 albums with Mr. Lamar and the Big Steppers being a double album, so they counted as 2. His first 5 albums, Good Kid, Mad City, Damn, To Pimp a Butterfly, and Mr. Morale and the Big Steppers. Actually, Section 80 I think counts as that too. His first 5 albums, or 6, whatever, his first 6 or 5 albums have already been fulfilled, and now Kendrick Lamar being on his own. And as we know, that culminated in Kendrick Lamar's GNX, which came out and was incredibly lauded because it was a pretty good project. It was a pretty good project. It wasn't my top of the year, but the point is it was a successful union. And the lawsuit also goes on to say, to allege, because we don't know if any of this is true, but goes on to allege that the two of them, the two parties, Kendrick Lamar and UMG, decided to embark on a further deal so that it was successful. And now Kendrick Lamar is doing the Super Bowl, and we might end up seeing Kendrick Lamar perform Not Like Us. But I don't think he'll actually perform Not Like Us at the Super Bowl, especially with this whole lawsuit. If anything, this is something that just popped in my head, so maybe I'm crazy, but maybe part of this lawsuit is there as a way to kind of head off Kendrick Lamar potentially using this song at the Super Bowl, because you don't want to be also on the national television saying these things that are currently being litigated in court. But hey, that's a whole nother stuff, right? Anyways, the filing goes on in legalese explanation of the song itself, right? Right here. This is actually pretty funny. Within the first minute, the recording identifies Drake by name and states that Lamar has heard that Drake has a predilection for underage women. Say, Drake, I hear you like I'm young, right? And I'm adding a little bit of rhythm to this, but when you're reading the document, it's still funny. The next line is a thinly veiled threat that Drake should be careful that he never ends up in prison, a place where child predators are notoriously the targets of violence. You better not ever go to cell block 1. And then it also says the recording continues to say that any woman that falls in love with Drake should be careful to hide her little sister from him. And again, like I'm saying, this is a legalese explanation of a rap beef, right? It goes on to add, the recording also repeatedly suggests that violence should be used against Drake because he's a pedophile. Like the sound of someone being beaten up, the recording repeats wop, 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 and then says Lamar will fuck him up. Later, the recording threatens that if Drake comes to Oakland, where Lamar grew up, he will not make it out alive. I think that Oakland show gonna be your last stop. Honestly, it's hilarious. Like, it shouldn't be funny, but it is hilarious. Because I remember back in May 4th, 5th, when this song dropped, I remember being on live saying like, yo, I know we are all enjoying the song. We're all sitting here living in this, but it is not a good look for the biggest artist in the game to call the other biggest artist in the game a pedophile. Like, that is crazy. That is a really huge allegation. And people saying that if it's not true, Drake should sue for defamation. Well, guess what? Here's that lawsuit. I think it's corny to sue just generally. I think personally Drake should be focused on making hit records, something that he does really well. But also I could totally see him being like, you know what? Screw it. I don't care what the community says. I don't care what the culture thinks. I know there's going to be someone in my comments that are going to say, well, this is why we don't like Drake. But hey, you know what? When you're rich enough that the only thing that you have that you could lose is your reputation, you're going to sue on that. Dare I say, I get it. But hey, the document also goes on to say that the allegations are false, of course. Allegations against Drake are unequivocally false. Drake has never been charged with, indicted for, or convicted of any charges of sexual violence or assault, including but not limited to sexual violence against a minor. Nor has Drake ever engaged in an inappropriate romantic or sexual behavior with a minor. And it also mentions that Drake would become the target of violence pretty fast. Now, this is like an interesting part of the document, right? The lawyer here, if I'm correct, is the same lawyer that was used by the pizza shop at the center of Pizzagate. If y'all don't remember Pizzagate was the conspiracy, the QAnon conspiracy that basically said that child predators were working out of a pizza shop in DC and they were trafficking minors through there. And effectively, when you are putting allegations like this onto somebody, and notably the way that Kendrick Lamar did it by posting the cover for Not Like Us being Drake's compound, maybe that compound isn't the right word, but being Drake's mansion, and using citizen app stars for pedophile is here on it, and causing the internet to go crazy, because the internet is all about, like the internet, rightfully so. You should be mad at people that do this type of thing, of course. But the point is, allegations like this can enact violence on it. And the document goes on to list a couple instances. Obviously here, the shooting that happened outside of the Drake's house that happened a couple days later. I remember that first couple weeks was insane, but a couple days later. Now, if there's anybody in the comments, I feel like this shooting, if I'm correct, was more about the OVO versus XO beef. Let me know if that's the case, but I feel like that's what it was about, but I don't know. Let me know. But there's that, but there's this other instance right here. Check this out. On May 8th, 2024, a different invader attempted to break into Drake's property by using his bare hands to dig under the security gate. The invader slid under the fence and entered the property, screaming racist slurs and threats toward Drake. The invader was apprehended by security before making it to the house. That is absolutely insane, and that is some Pizzagate level stuff. Pizzagate effectively culminated in somebody pulling up to the pizza shop with a gun, trying to free the children that were supposedly in the back room being trafficked. So this is really serious things right here. It also goes through the Not Like Us music video, pointing out how there are all of these instances where they're kind of whistleblowing to the idea that like Drake is a trafficker. I didn't even realize, but like standing in front of white containers is about to be like, this is where humans are trafficked in. Also, beating up the owl or putting the owl behind bars, and basically saying that UMG knowingly promoted this song, knowing that it was defaming somebody that they had signed, knowing that it was fake, but they did this as a way to make Drake cheaper to negotiate with now in 2025, right? And also, this is another interesting thing. The document accuses Complex of all places of being in on the take two, like this right here. On information and belief, UMG used its stake in Complex, a global youth entertainment network, to further promote the defamatory material. And that's funny to me because I feel like that's BS, right? Any good, I mean, I'm not a lawyer, but I feel like any good defamation suit or any good lawsuit's going to have a couple things that aren't going to necessarily stick. But if you're trying to explain this to some stodgy judge that's not really plugged into the culture, it's not really plugged into what any of this stuff is, that's going to kind of hold up. You're going to be like, wow, you used this entire media arm, UMG, and UMG owns Complex through network buying Complex. And if I'm correct, UMG has money and network. And they're saying that UMG spoke with the people of Complex that actually pushed this through. Now, I haven't done any research on whether or not Complex addressed this because I haven't seen anybody talking about it. It's a pretty big deal that they would allege that Complex was involved in this, but I think it's BS because personally, as someone that used to work at Genius, which is why some of y'all are watching this, a media agency is just going to cover this because this is the biggest beef of all time. You got to cover every single song in it. So they covered the Heart Part 6, they covered Euphoria, they covered Like That, they covered Push-Ups, they covered all of these different songs. They covered Rick Ross's beef. So of course they're going to cover Not Like Us. And then on top of that, if Not Like Us is doing well in a social platform, if it's doing well, if it's getting views, if it's getting all this stuff, they're going to continue to cover it. So to say that as a way to continue to further impugn Drake and all that was ridiculous, but that's a whole nother thing. Right. So then they also list other instances of the song going viral, notably being the election for Kamala Harris right here. During a July 20th, 2024 campaign rally for Vice President Kamala Harris in Atlanta, Georgia, the DJ played the recording to the live crowd. Video footage showing the crowd singing along to the lyrics, certified lover boy, certified pedophiles, and trying to strike a chord and it's probably A minor, quickly went viral on social media. It also shows how UMG whitelisted the song, which the document says was not allowed at UMG. That's a thing apparently it's not listing. And when you whitelist a song, especially for YouTubers, it allows YouTubers and people to make content on it. And that was the thing that I remember when that actually happened in May. And I remember thinking to myself, oh, that's absolutely brilliant, because when you make it so that I don't have to spend money in order to cover the song, I don't have to spend money in order to make reactions on it, it's not going to get struck down against me. It's only going to allow more people to continue to make more things for it. So I totally see why they're sitting here and using this as one of the reasons that are saying, like, you know what? This can't happen. And then it goes into YouTube comments as a way to show that the culture, that the people believe that Kendrick Lamar's allegations against Drake. It also says right here, and then it says that it accuses UMG of fanning anti-Semitic slurs against Drake because he's Jewish, and it has proof. And there are definitely Twitter posts of people likening Drake to Harvey Weinstein and Jeffrey Epstein. And as to the anti-Semitic stuff, right, there's been a lot of people on social media to say, like, Drake is accusing Kendrick Lamar of being anti-Semitic. And people are saying that, like, people are not necessarily speaking to the letter of what was actually said. They're not saying that. What they're saying is that this kicked off a wave of anti-Semitic violence against Drake. and people using that as a way to kind of throw slurs at him. And if you are Jewish or if you're anybody, no one likes hearing negative things said about you on the internet. And crazy people are going to say crazy things on the internet. And the internet is racist. The internet is anti-Semitic. The internet is all of these things. So of course this was going to happen, but it's also including it into the document as a way to say, look what happened when you let this run amok and you didn't actually stop this. And then finally, it points out that Sir Lucian Grange, the head of UMG, knows what it's like to forcefully deny an allegation that's not true. He says right here, UMG knows and understands just how destructive false allegations of participating in criminal sex acts against minors can be. When UMG and Sir Grange were accused of aiding and abetting P. Diddy's criminal sex acts in 2024, they moved to dismiss the complaint and called the accusations offensively false allegations of criminal behavior. That would be libelous per se if not contained within a legal filing, and knowingly and maliciously false and defamatory. In Sir Grange's words, a single lie can destroy a reputation of integrity that while it takes years to build a reputation, it can be ruined in 5 minutes. And the crux of this whole document is that Drake is saying that UMG helped Drake build a reputation since signing him in 2009, built it all around for 14 years, turning him into the biggest artist on the planet. But then they said that they didn't want to pay him a massive deal again. They knew they were going to have to pay him a lot because of how streaming has grown and how big Drake is on the app and how big Drake continues to be. So they used Kendrick Lamar against Drake, another artist of theirs, a song about him calling Drake a pedophile that UMG knew was fake. And then they said that, you know what, we're going to prop the song up, we're going to turn it into the biggest song in the world, we're going to pay for bots. I forgot to include that, but we're going to pay for bots to make it the biggest song in the world. And then we're going to make Drake cheaper when we want to negotiate with him in 2025. Does that all make sense? And UMG, of course, released a statement. I forgot to say this at the top, but I'll say this here. UMG released a statement saying that this whole lawsuit is BS and they look forward to fighting Drake in court. And personally, I'm curious to see what's going to happen in Discovery. And let me know in the comments, like drop a follow. Let me know in the comments what y'all think. How do you feel like this is going to play out? I'm kind of a little nuanced on it. One part of me feels like Drake should be focused on making music and just move on, drop the beef. But another part of me is like, hey, if Drake knows that this is not true, and, you know, I personally don't think it's true, but I do believe there's a lot of weird smoke there. But honestly, something Drake did say, it would have been come out by now. But as we're learning, it doesn't always been come out by now, you know? Like Neil Gaiman just got, outed as a absolute creep, and that happened a couple days ago. So point being, it could come out later. We don't know what's there. But the point that I'm trying to say is, if you're Drake and you don't necessarily care what the streets or what the people, what the culture has to say, what the culture's feeling, and you just want your name cleared legally on wax, and you had the money to sue, I could see why you would. Because if you have the biggest music agency in the world that used to be signed to is using another artist that is also signed to them as a way to make you cheaper, I could see being pissed about that. But I'm also sitting here thinking to myself like, yo, is this really a worthwhile use of your time? I don't know. But anyways, that's my take on the lawsuit. There's going to definitely be more coming out in the future, and I think it's going to be a really fun time breaking it down. Let me know what y'all think. Drop a W if you made it this far. If you watched this whole video, you are definitely a real one. I'm going to be making more videos. As you can tell, I can yap. So I'm going to be making more videos, all right? It's your boy Jacques. Follow, like, and subscribe. I'll see y'all in the next one. Shout outs to the real ones. Peace.